So my name is Detective Mike Pondoyo. It's Mike Pondoyo.
Awesome. So, Mike, tell me a little bit about some of the reports that you guys have been getting about students and their safety on the roads.
Yeah, so some of the complaints that we've had is we've had parents call about kids crossing the road where there's no crosswalk and they're not really paying attention what's going on. We actually had a couple of close calls the other day where kids were kind of just rushing across the street without having to look both ways. And so that's pretty much the main concern.
Is there a specific area that those close calls happened in, or just kind of around the schools?
Just around the school areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, in terms of like safety protocols in place, traffic protocols in place around schools, what are some of those things, like crosswalks?
So mainly, yeah, so we have like our school crosswalks. We actually just got done doing the crosswalk initiative that we do every year. It was for the last 2 weeks and it was actually really, really good. We ended up stopping more than 50 vehicles during that initiative. And it's basically for drivers to be more aware of those crossing. We focus a lot on the school crosswalks simply because of the kids. There's a big difference between a regular crosswalk and a school crosswalk, where the school crosswalk is more like the ladder, where you see more of the lines on the road, right? When it comes to those kind of crosswalks, whether school's in session or not, or if there's a light to push, you don't have to turn the light on. You actually have to stop if there is a pedestrian in that school crosswalk, and you cannot go or drive past that crosswalk until they've actually gone to the other side of the sidewalk. Opposed to where if it's a regular crosswalk, right, you can wait till they're halfway through and then you can drive through when it's safe. But those are the two differences in the protocols that are in place.
So, at a school crosswalk where it's the ladder, it's the bars, you have to wait till a kid is all the way through.
Yeah, or a pedestrian, not necessarily just a kid, but yes, any pedestrian that's in the ladder crosswalk, in a school crosswalk, they cannot cross that crosswalk until that pedestrian has crossed all the way through onto the sidewalk.
So, in these close calls that have happened, are those happening just not even in those crosswalks?
Yep, not even in the crosswalks. Some kids are actually avoiding going to the crossing guard and waiting until they think it's safe to cross, and that's where we've had the issue, is they're trying to cross where there's no crosswalk, no crossing guard, and not, someone to help them pretty much to stop traffic for them to walk.
So they're bypassing the safety protocols that are there.
Yes.
To just save time?
I honestly don't know. I'm assuming so. Obviously when we have a school out here, Vista, for example, that we have on Center Street, you got about 4 lanes of traffic plus a turning lane, right? We have crosswalks on each end, crossing guards on each end, where they would go to stop traffic and then let them through. Obviously during, end of school, you have a line of kids ready to go and cross. Maybe they get anxious. I'm not really sure what the reasoning is to skip the crossing guard or the crosswalk.
Yeah. So what is the shared responsibility between drivers, parents, and kids to get to school safely?
So at the end of the day, really, when it pertains to kids, right, a lot of the focus right now is to make sure the kids are paying attention, right? We want them to be safe. When it goes, for example, traffic, let's say if I'm going north and south and I'm someone that's walking on the sidewalk, I want to walk against traffic. So if traffic's going north, I want to walk going south so they see me. If I'm on a bike, I want to ride with traffic. So, and then also when it comes to drivers, right, look out, we have the kids who we really can't see over, whether it's the trunk or sometimes even the front of the car, depending on how well you can see, I guess. Stop when you're exiting. For example, we have roads here in Ivins, especially where there's homes on the main road. Instead of just backing out real quick, make sure to slowly take a look both ways before you're coming back out. And the same expectations as well as for kids, right? As you're walking home, right? We tell the kids, hey, walk on the sidewalk. Obviously, when you're crossing through and you see, a driveway, stop, make sure the car's not moving before you go ahead and cross. Make sure it's safe.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yep.
So what are some of the criteria that the police department would consider when it comes to adding additional safety precautions around a school or at an intersection that might be considered dangerous?
So when it comes to school crosswalks, for example, right, there's obviously things to look for. So during school hours especially, we have the bright flashing yellow lights telling you to slow down at 20 miles per hour. And then obviously for us as officers, especially on patrol, we do what's called extra patrol in those school zones to make sure not only the drivers but pedestrians are also being safe. And then, it's very hard to watch everyone all at the same time. But again, at the end of the day, it falls on the responsibility of both the pedestrian and the driver to stop, look, and listen before crossing the street.
Awesome. And then I don't know if you've heard, but in North Salt Lake, I think it's Riverton up north, there were 2 kids that one was hit by a bus, one was hit by a truck.
Oh, geez.
In the last couple of days. And I think sometimes people don't think that these things can happen.
Yeah.
But they can.
Yeah.
And what's kind of your message to families when they're talking to their kids about getting to school safe and, knowing that cars may not stop for you?
Yeah. So no, again, it's really realistically knowing the basics, right? If we're specifically talking about crosswalks, if you're walking, you come to the crosswalk, stop, look both ways before you go anywhere, listen, and then when it's safe to cross, then cross. If there is a crossing guard on duty, make sure to walk to that crossing guard instead of just crossing on your own. That's realistically, when it comes to school zones, the biggest thing for school crosswalks.
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add about just school safety? Anything you guys have heard? Anything you want to say to the community?
Realistically, it's all about everyone just being safe. I don't want to imagine what anyone could go through if they accidentally hit, whether it's a child or an adult, right, in a crosswalk. One big thing that I do want to stress as well for those of us dropping off our kids at school, we've seen this issue recently. I recently saw it today, where let's say the school's on one side of the road, the parent will park on the other side of the road to drop their kids off. The crossing guard is 20 feet away. Teach your kids to walk to the crossing guard to cross the street, opposed to walking across the street where there's no safety for them. It happened actually quite a few times in front of us today, me and another officer. And so again, it's all really about being safe and making sure that everyone gets home.
Awesome. Just a question for my own knowledge. What about jaywalking here? Is that illegal?
So you're not supposed to jaywalk, right? The whole point of not jaywalking is to be safe. You don't want to get hit while crossing the road, and there's you want to stay visible and be in places where me as a driver, or anyone I guess as a driver, when you see a crosswalk, we're more viable to look and be like, okay, is someone crossing or is someone there, instead of just the normal street where we have 35 miles per hour right there on Center Street. I mean, it's kind of hard if you're going 35 miles per hour and someone just decides to run across. There's the timing aspect to it. There's the reaction aspect to it. So, yes, jaywalking is not good.
Yeah. It seems like, you guys can put as many safety protocols in place, crosswalks, school zones, all these things. And if someone just darts out, it makes it really hard for a driver.
Oh, absolutely.
But then again, the driver also has to be looking out. So
yes.
It's like the kids need to be safe. The kids need to be aware, but also the drivers need to be aware.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Joint effort.
And also, another thing that we've been seeing a lot lately too is, for example, if this is the crosswalk, right? We tend to see some parents park close to the crosswalk, or close to the sidewalk, near the crosswalk. So then when someone's trying to cross, it's hard to see for the driver if someone's trying to cross, And so that's something also, don't park or drop off your kids near the crosswalk in the school zone, or any crosswalk for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. This was so much valuable information. I really appreciate you
absolutely
talking with me.
Thanks.
And yeah, thanks.